Hello, my name is Martina Stewart. Welcome to my capstone presentation on strategies for teaching students with autism spectrum disorder. Before I begin my presentation, I would like to extend a special thanks to several important people, Dr. Southall, Dr. Sales, and Ms. Pruitt. Thank you for serving as evaluators for this presentation. Your participation is vital to this endeavor for me. I would also like to thank Dr. Winstead for her guidance through this capstone process. You have been my cheerleader and made me believe that I could run with the horses. I would also like to thank Mr. Tad, my advisor. I've had several advisors since I started Piedmont, and I must say that Mr. Tad has been simply the best advisor. He has rooted me on to graduation, and I thank you so much, Mr. Tad. So we have an agenda. So first up is the introduction. It'll be about me and my purpose and my pedagogy. Next, we'll talk about knowledge, my experience, educational knowledge and education, and, my learning through K through 12 working with students. And next, experience, I piggyback off that, and, instructional practice and democratic scholar. And next, we'll wrap it up with my future goals, what I plan to do after Piedmont. My journey into education is unbelievable. I never thought that I would be in a classroom doing what I'm doing. In 2001, it began at Statham Elementary. And I remember sitting down at the interview and the principal saying, we are looking for someone to be a one-on-one for a student who is not mobile and will need assistance with toileting. So he said OHI at the time, and I really didn't understand it. He said, if you're interested, the job is yours. I told him, sure, sure, because this was a door open for me. Yes, I'm still interested because in the back of my mind, I knew that at the time I had my CNAs and, it would come in handy with this student, So my training would play a role in this. And this opportunity was something that, I dreamt about but never saw myself doing. But my years at Statham were my training years as I reflect back over it, starting in 2001 until now. So after years went by, just working in the classroom, talking to other friends, in the system, and, I thought about it, Martina, you can do this, you can go back to school. And I said, well, I can do it. I can do it. I had little ones, but I knew that I had help around me to help me reach my goals. So in 2006, I decided to go back to school to pursue a degree in education. I applied at Augusta Technical College, where I enrolled in early childhood education. After taking several classes, I heard about Piedmont College. At first, I was hesitant about applying because I really didn't think I would get accepted, because looking at that college, you would think, oh, you have to be smart, you have to be, pretty A student, and in the back of my mind, I knew in school I wasn't an A student, I was an ABC student, and yeah, sometimes a couple times in high school, I remember making a D, and so I'm like, okay, can I do this? And then I just got the application and I applied. In 2011, I applied and I was accepted. And I remember writing that essay, and that essay, said, why do you want to attend Piedmont? And I was just honest. I just opened my heart and, I said, well, I never saw myself going to college because of the fact that I was a teen mom. And I held myself back. I was a teen mom. I didn't see myself doing it. And, I knew I loved working with kids. I knew that from the depth of my heart. And I just laid it out there. And I enrolled and I got accepted. And when I opened that letter, I could not believe it. I could not believe it. My life totally changed. It's like, okay, I'm the oldest of my mama children. And I'm finna go to college, I was considered a dropout at an early age, somebody that would never succeed because of my situation. And, that just motivated me even more. And I enrolled in early childhood at the time. And, I thought, early childhood was it, but I would eventually have a change of heart because of my years working in the education system and working in special education, and just knowing it and just loving those kids. And I noticed that what my heart was. My heart was in special education. And those kids, they just draw to me and I draw to them, and it was just like you belong here. You belong here. And after, attending Piedmont for some years and knowing that special education was the route that I wanted to go, I went to my advisor at the time and I asked her, I said, well, I know I enrolled in early childhood, but special education is where I really want to be. Well, she said, Martina, unfortunately right now you can't do that, but we do have this program. She said, you got all your hours. She said, but we do have this program you could take, and you can piggyback off that. I said, okay. And she told me about the Ed Studies program, and I'm like, whoa, okay, well, let's go this route. And so we did that, and now here I am. I'm finna graduate in Ed Studies. So, even though some people look at Ed Studies as not, being quote unquote, certified, you're not certified. No, you're not certified yet, but you're on the way to be certified. And that's the route that I know is best for me because of the plans that, I have in back of my head towards to get certified in special education. So, and this is where I'm at now, and I'm glad I made the choice. So I just want to piggyback, like I said, all my years of experience in education, and majority of those years been in special education, and I have worked at every level every level in the school system. And like I said, I worked at Statham Elementary School for 10 years. I left and I went back. So life changing. So I did that, and they opened the door for me to come back again in special education. I went to Overthorpe County Middle School, where I worked in self-contained for a year. After that, I went to the GNETS program. They used to call it Psycho Ed, but they don't call it Psycho Ed anymore. They call it GNETS, which is, for behavioral students. I served there for 6 years. 6 years, I never thought that I would be there, but I really learned a lot there. I want to take that experience away from the world. That really made me tough, as you can say, as far as, having to restrain. You don't want it to be that way, but sometimes you just have to. And after that, I went to Madison County Middle School. I worked there for a year. I worked in self-contained also there. I loved it. I worked with a first-year teacher there. Me and her, we had a good relationship. She always asked my advice, and I was so glad that she thought enough of me to ask my advice. Clark Central, wow, I really enjoyed my years at Clark Central High School. I tell you what, I worked with the best team there ever. And I'm going to shout out Mr. Sales. I tell you what, he really helped me in my journey in education. And that whole SPED team there, they were so welcoming. Everybody there on that SPED team had a loving heart for each other. And the parapros, we was included on meetings, and so, Mr. Sales, every time I had a student, so I would go in Mr. Sales class, and he would always make me feel welcome. So kudos to Mr. Sales. I high praise for Mr. Sales and all my Clark Central grads there. Next was Overthorpe Avenue Elementary School. I was there for 1 year also. I worked with another first year teacher there. Being her bonded, it was something. It was something at the beginning of the school year. But I must say, at the end of the school year, she gave me a big hug, and I'll never forget her saying, Miss Martina, I love you, and that meant a lot. It meant a lot to me, and that let you know that you make a difference in the classroom. And after that, now I'm at the Office of Early Learning. Well, I've been there 4 years. I am working there as a special education parapro, also in self-contained setting. Miss Pruitt, she used to be next door to me, so I used to come and tick her, probably prick her, like, hey, Miss Pruitt, I need your help on some things. And so, yeah, strong team there. I also early learner. I have learned a lot there also. So I have worked in pretty much every setting, and I won't give nothing for the journey and the experience that I have right now. So here's a quote that I thought would fit good, for me and, my process of how I see myself in the school setting and how I see myself, with my students, even the administrators and the teachers, and I just want to read it. Give your hands to serve and your hearts to love. And that's a quote from Mother Teresa. And that's all I want to do. I just want to serve, and I give my heart to those students. I want to be there for them. I want to listen to them. If I don't have the right answer, someday they just need a hug, And so I just see myself as a servant on this journey that I'm on. And so that quote is sort of lined up with my personal pedagogy. I have learned that I can inspire students by having a listening ear and an open heart and a loving nature. And that's just me. Just me. I can listen. I can have an open heart and a loving nature. Because that's it. It's all about love and education. A child can feel your warmth. A child can feel when you care about them. And so that's it. Teach, love, and inspire. Educational knowledge. Knowledge is power. Leading up to my capstone, there have been several classes that have prepared me along the way. The first class was my learning cognition class. I learned a lot about different theories such as Maslow and Piaget and Gardner. I will continue to hear about these theories in other classes as well. I learned how to incorporate those theories in my work, And so the next class that prepared me for my capstone was my autism endorsement class. When I started taking these classes, I wanted to know about autism and how I can help my students better by understanding their disorder. I felt like I was a child in a candy shop. I was soaking up everything Dr. Southall was teaching about autism. I kept my notes and assignments. I kept every notebook from the first class to the last class this previous summer. I will go back and use some of the strategies like using the visuals and how to make token boards. And especially, y'all, how to perform a functional behavior assessment. And that will always stay in the back of my mind when I notice that our kids might be acting out. And I will always go back to that FBA, the antecedent behavior and the consequence. Okay, what's going on before this time? What's happening now? I will always keep that back there because I'm like, okay, now let's see what's going on here so I can help this child here. And it's just amazing how this autism class lined up for my capstone. So after taking my autism endorsement class, like I said, lined up with my capstone, and I knew that I wanted to do something about autism. So autism, what is autism? According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, autism spectrum disorder, known as ASD, is a developmental disability that could cause significant social, communication and behavior changes. And so once I got into this class and I started, learning more, and I started picking up things, like different things that I know is about our students, like the different characteristics and how, they sensory and how communication play. And I will always look at my students and notice, okay, are they flapping? Okay, are they walking on their tippy toes? Okay, what are the repetitive behaviors? Are they running back and forth? Are they echoing? All that stuff just started coming to me when I was in the classroom and I started observing our students. I was working with 3 and 4 year olds, at the time. So, some of them had been diagnosed and some of them haven't. So we don't supposed to diagnose, but I'm just looking, because I'm curious, myself. So, this class has really helped me, and I have enjoyed this class every step of the way. Working with students with autism, you would think, okay, they have ASD and they are alike. But no, they are not alike. They have different personalities and they like different things. Students with autism, some might love nature. Some, like, for example, bugs. Some might love toys. Like, some might love buses. Some might love cars. Arts and music, as well. And so working with these students, you think about Howard Gardner and how they follow up on his intelligence and